Fred was feeling right at home again. He was enjoying his work, and the other engines wouldn't leave his side. The shed-master was very pleased to have him back too. The sheds just didn't feel the same without him. Whilst Fred had been on his sabbatical, not much had changed. William was still pompous and insufferable. Den was still emphasizing a diesel revolution, but seemed to be softening over time, and there were still many comings and goings at the sheds. Visitors to the sheds always call it Camden Sheds due to the part of London it is situated in, but to Jimmy, Fred and the other engines, they much prefer their home to be called Euston, after the main station it serves. They enjoy welcoming many different visitors to the sheds. The most intriguing visitors are those that you don't normally see there, who don't blend in and aren't able to escape the attention of the engines. Special rail tours in association with the Stevenson Locomotive Society, or the SLS, would always acquire unusual and interesting locomotives at the head of their trains. Some would be ordinary workhorses venturing onto some old forgotten line, whilst others were newly preserved locomotives exploring old stomping grounds and roaming over new territories. 3 such rail tours were to take place from Euston. A special locomotive was to be at the head of these trains, and it was sure to bring enthusiasts from miles around. Her name was Seraphim. She was a Midland Railway compound locomotive. She had been preserved for the Clapham Transport Museum. She was the jewel in their crown and looked absolutely immaculate. The engines and the crews admired her. She looked very glamorous. Seraphim left her admirers in awe as she puffed away to take her first special. Babs was blown away by her beauty. "Oh, I wish I was that beautiful too," she sighed. "Appearances are only skin deep, my dear," replied Fred. "Real beauty is found within." "Yes, but being attractive helps in life." "Well, it certainly helped her all her life," said Fred earnestly. "Beware of her." "Fred, don't be horrible." "Her name is Seraphim. It means angel of the highest order. And believe me, she's no angel." "She can't be that bad, surely." "I met Seraphim at Crewe when she pulled rail tours there. By the end of her stay she had her coupling hook wrapped around all the engines, and she'll do the same here," puffed Fred. "Mark my words, she's one to watch out for." Fred puffed away. Babs was unsure. It seemed wrong to judge someone based on hearsay. That evening the engines had the opportunity to speak to Seraphim. "It is a great honour for you to grace us with your presence," announced William lordly. Seraphim felt flattered. "Why, thank you, my darling. It humbles my heart for you to welcome me into your magnificent home." Babs watched carefully. "Even though I must be forced to live on, preservation and fame are a heavy burden to bear," said Seraphim dramatically. "Poor you," muttered Babs. "I'm strictly prohibited from being cold under a coal hopper. It must be done by hand. I'm not allowed to collect my own coaches or share a shed with other engines in case they make my paintwork sooty. But those are the rules, and I must abide by them." "Of course," agreed Jimmy. "We completely understand," concurred Terry. I think I speak for us all that no finer or more beautiful engine has been bestowed with flying the flag for representing steam and preservation, said William. Oh, please, oh, thank you. Now begone, Jimmy and Terry. Leave the sheds for her to be alone. We mustn't discomfort our guest, William called grandly. Babs was shocked. She watched Jimmy and Terry willingly give up their berths so Seraphim could sleep alone. This didn't seem right to her, and it played on her mind all night. The next morning, Seraphim was being prepared for the second rail tour. She sighed like a damsel in distress. "Who shall ever get my coal trucks for me?" she cried. "I'll do it, I'll do it, no, I'll do it," shouted Jimmy, and he hurried away. Babs rolled her eyes. Soon Seraphim was being called by hand. The work was taking a long time. Babs was on relief duty, and so she watched the operation disapprovingly. The shedmaster came up to Babs. "I see you've met Seraphim," he said knowingly. "Is she always this high maintenance?" asked Babs. "I'm afraid so. I was warned about her by the shedmaster at Crewe. Apparently she likes things her own way. Ever since she was preserved, it's gone to her head." "Well, what do you expect when they treat her like a member of the royal family?" scoffed Babs. "Being cold by hand is ridiculous." "Well, the museum do want to keep her in pristine condition." "Does that include exiling other engines from their sheds and being incapable of collecting her own coaches too?" "No, not at all," said the shedmaster, perplexed. "Where have you got that from?" Babs told the shedmaster what Seraphim had said. "Did she now?" grumbled the shedmaster. "I'd discipline her, but she's not my responsibility to do so. If she complains, then the museum will stop her pulling rail tours from here, and enthusiasts and British Railways will put the blame on me. In the meantime, we'll just have to put up with her until she's gone." The shedmaster left, leaving Babs aghast. It wasn't like him to not show his authority towards an engine causing an uprest. Just then, Vic rolled into the sheds next to Seraphim. The Midland compound kicked up a huge fuss. Get away, she scolded. "Why, what's wrong?" asked Vic innocently. "You'll get my paintwork all dirty." "I doubt it, I'm a diesel, not a steam engine," retorted Vic. "Go away, you ugly great beast, you're ruining my appearance," exclaimed Seraphim. Vic, feeling quite insulted, gave in and parked himself next to Babs. "What was all that about?" he asked. "That's Seraphim," huffed Babs. "She's here to pull some rail tours. She's a Mardy madam with ideas above her station. All the engines are blinded by her beauty and are besotted with her." "Well, she doesn't do anything for me," Vic added. At that moment a relief call came through. Babs was needed at the station to collect Richard's passenger train, and she hurried away. When Babs was ready to leave the station, Seraphim had a huge crowd of enthusiasts surrounding her, all taking photographs. She seemed to relish in all the attention. Horwich was stood beside her. "Don't stand too close, you'll ruin my shots," she protested. "But I'm famous too," puffed Horwich. "I've pulled the royal train." "You're just old news, darling. You'll never be famous. You're just a little tank engine whose 15 minutes of fame have come and gone. Don't try and be something you're not. It's rather sad and pathetic," sniggered Seraphim. Horwich felt very hurt. "Fame suits me, not you," she scorned. The enthusiasts climbed aboard, and Seraphim steamed importantly away. Babs was livid. "You shouldn't let her speak to you like that. She has no right." Horwich didn't say a word. He was very upset. The next morning, Babs told Fred what Seraphim had said to Horwich. "She's absolutely ghastly," Babs hissed. "I'm going to give her a piece of my mind." "Well, I'd wait until William has left her side," advised Fred. "Those two are perfectly matched. She won't mind him being near her." "Oh, please make the others snap out of this. She has a hold over them all. They'll listen to you." "Of course I will," smiled Fred. "But once they realize she's hurt Horridge and Vic's feelings, they'll stand by their friends." "Oh, whoever will collect my coaches?" cried Seraphim loudly. "I will, my dear," replied William heroically. "It would be my pleasure." Babs and Fred watched in disbelief. William never collected anyone's coaches, let alone for himself. As soon as William was out of sight, Babs made her move. "Beauty really has reared its ugly head," murmured Babs. "Excuse me," glared Seraphim. "You are one to admire, but that's it. You're just nice to look at. The rest of you is horrid and isn't worth a second glance. You use as many engines as you can. Not that you deserve their attention or help. You're a nasty piece of work who thinks only of herself and is more than happy to speak to others in a spiteful and malicious way." Oh dear, we are coming across as jealous. We can't all be built beautiful, and I guess some of us are struggling to come to the terms with how they appear. You're jealous because I get what I want, and others are happy to give it to me. William is the only engine I don't speak down to because he understands that not all engines are equal, and some are more important than others. I do not recognize your hierarchy. It's utter nonsense, snarled Babs. Oh, but you should. You see, I've been saved. I'm one of the chosen few. That makes me more important than you and all the others. I'm more significant, more famous, and more prettier than you'll ever be. Even when you're long gone, I'll still be here, smirked Seraphim. Fred steamed up. "Remember me, Seraphim?" "Fred, I didn't stand for your nonsense at Crewe, and I certainly won't tolerate it here. I know your game, so be off with you, and take your attitude with you." "I wonder how pretty you'll really look when you're stuffed and mounted in a museum," sniffed Babs. Seraphim snorted and flounced away. At Euston, Seraphim collected her train. As usual, the enthusiasts crowded round her. "This is much better," she said smugly. At last she puffed away, feeling very pleased with herself. She had enjoyed all the attention. But out on the main line, Seraphim wasn't feeling well. Water was failing to get into the boiler. "Her injectors have failed," cried the fireman. Seraphim was stopped at the next station. The driver and fireman tried as hard as they could to coax the water through, but to no avail. They had no choice but to uncouple Seraphim and damp down her fire. Enthusiasts swarmed out of the train and buzzed around her. She felt very embarrassed as she limped onto a siding. They all took her pictures and made notes about her abysmal performance. She didn't like the attention now, but worse was to come. The station master telephoned for a relief. Instead, the enthusiasts were treated to a double-header with Horridge and Fred. "That's the Royal Engine," shouted an enthusiast. "And a rare pairing of locomotives," added another. Horridge felt very proud. Fred could only smile, as none of the enthusiasts were interested in Seraphim anymore. "Excuse me," she snapped. "I'm the famous one. I'm the one you've come to see, not them." No one took any notice. The enthusiasts excitedly boarded the train, and the two engines puffed away proudly, leaving Seraphim behind. Eventually, Babs was sent to rescue her. She couldn't resist in gloating in her misfortune. "Fred has informed the other engines of what you're really like. They aren't best pleased with the way you treated Horwich and Vic." Babs paused impressively. "In the end, the truth will out." Seraphim said nothing. That evening, the engines didn't go near her. William was the only engine to gush pity over her, but soon he had to leave to take one of his evening suburban trains. Seraphim was on her own. "Clearly," said a voice from somewhere behind her, "fame isn't everything."